Why pain is the only way forward. Stoic IronMind Truths. What if the pain you're running from is the only thing capable of turning you into the person you keep pretending to be? This is the question you avoid, the one that cuts through every excuse you've built to protect your comfort. You tell yourself you need motivation, clarity, or the right moment. But Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for the right moment. Seneca didn't negotiate with discomfort. Epictetus didn't ask for permission to endure. They all understood the same truth. Pain is not a detour. Pain is the road. You fear pain because you think it will break you. The reality is harsher. It will break you, but only in the ways you desperately need. Pain is demolition, not destruction. It tears down the weak structure so a stronger one can be built. Nietzsche warned that avoidance of suffering doesn't protect you. It rots you. It turns you soft, confused, dependent on circumstances. The person who refuses pain refuses growth, and the person who refuses growth becomes their own jailer. You want strength without struggle, progress without sacrifice, wisdom without wounds. But that fantasy is exactly what keeps you fragile. Comfort is not safety. Comfort is erosion. It dissolves discipline, dulls perception, and blinds you to the reality that life is hard, no matter how gently you try to hold it. Viktor Frankl proved that humans do not survive because life gets easier. They survive because they find meaning inside what hurts. Pain, when faced with purpose, becomes fuel. Pain, when avoided, becomes chains. Jung said that what you avoid becomes your fate. Look at your life honestly and you'll see this everywhere. Every fear you dodge grows teeth. Every truth you ignore becomes heavier. Every discomfort you escape returns twice as strong. Pain is not hunting you. You're feeding it. If you turn and face it, you stop giving it power. If you walk toward it, you integrate its lessons. If you endure it, you develop the psychological calluses required to stop living at the mercy of impulse. Here's the reality no one wants to admit. You are not weak because life is unfair. You are weak because you refuse the one force that could sculpt you into something unbreakable. Seneca said, "Fire tests gold. What makes you think you deserve the results of gold while avoiding the fire that creates it?" Modern psychology says the same thing in different words. Stress, pressure, setbacks, adversity. These are the conditions under which the brain rewires itself for strength, focus, and resilience. Pain is the forge. It burns off what is false. It reveals what is undeveloped. It exposes what must be trained. Every time you choose discomfort over escape, you step closer to the person you are meant to become. Every time you avoid pain, you reinforce the identity that keeps you small. You don't need less pain. You need better pain, the kind that sharpens you, confronts you, expands you. So here is the truth, delivered without softness. If you want an unbreakable mind, stop worshipping comfort. Stop begging for life to be gentle. Stop expecting transformation without paying the cost every strong human has paid. Pain is the only way forward because nothing else has the authority to rewrite who you are. And now that you see it clearly, you have a choice. Keep hiding and remain the same, or step into the fire and earn the strength you admire in others. The lie you believe about pain. You were taught to see pain as a malfunction, as if something is wrong the moment discomfort appears. This is the first lie that weakens you. Pain is not a glitch in the system. Pain is the system. Every organism evolves through tension, stress, pressure, and resistance. Your bones strengthen when stressed. Your muscles grow when torn. Your character develops when confronted. Yet you still cling to the childish idea that a good life is one where nothing hurts. That belief has kept you fragile. Seneca warned that the worst suffering comes not from hardship, but from expecting life to be free of it. When you expect ease, every challenge feels like injustice. When you expect struggle, the same challenge becomes training. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the universe gives you exactly what you need to fulfill your nature. And what is your nature? To withstand, to adapt, to grow through adversity, not around it. Pain is the architect of your evolution. Avoid it, and you stay unfinished. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics knew. Avoidance breeds anxiety. Resistance strengthens fear. When you run from discomfort, the nervous system learns one thing: I cannot handle this. Your brain rewires itself toward fragility. Your world shrinks. Every inconvenience becomes a threat. Every challenge becomes a crisis. This is how people destroy themselves slowly, not through catastrophic events, but through thousands of small escapes that teach the mind to collapse under pressure. Nietzsche said that he who has a why can endure almost any how. If pain feels unbearable, it is because you have assigned it no purpose. Pain without meaning is torture. Pain with meaning is transformation. Frankl proved this by surviving the worst environment imaginable. He didn't pray for the suffering to end. He focused on giving every moment a direction. Pain became the furnace through which he discovered his will. That same furnace sits in front of you every day, but you keep stepping away from it. You tell yourself you want growth, discipline, mental toughness, but your behavior betrays your intention. You avoid the gym when you're tired. You avoid difficult conversations because you fear conflict. You avoid solitude because silence reveals the truth about your life. You avoid responsibility because blame is easier. Each escape reinforces the lie that pain is bad, discomfort is dangerous, and pressure is unfair. This lie is the reason you feel stuck, not your circumstances. Epictetus said, "You cannot control what happens, only how you respond." But responding requires strength, and strength requires exposure. You cannot develop courage without fear. You cannot develop resilience without struggle. You cannot develop clarity without confusion. Pain is the teacher that shapes these qualities in you. Every time you avoid it, you reject the exact training you need to stop living at the mercy of your emotions. You want an unbreakable mind. But an unbreakable mind is not built through pleasure, convenience, or safety. It is built through friction. Every time you walk into discomfort willingly, you communicate to yourself, "I am capable of more than this." That single statement reshapes your identity. It teaches your mind to stop begging for relief and start generating power. This is why avoidance feels safe, but destroys you, while pain feels dangerous but strengthens you. The truth is simple. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is the doorway to every trait you admire: discipline, focus, strength, courage, self-control, emotional stability. Without pain, these qualities cannot exist. They are not ideas. They are forged through experience, pressure, and deliberate struggle. And until you accept this, you will keep searching for shortcuts that do not exist. Pain as the architect of strength. Pain is not just an obstacle. It is the architect that shapes every form of strength you claim to want. You admire discipline, resilience, courage, and emotional control. Yet you forget where these traits come from. They are not inherited. They are engineered, and the engineer is always pain. Marcus Aurelius didn't become disciplined because life favored him. His strength came from sickness, loss, war, and responsibility. Stoicism was not a philosophy of comfort. It was a weapon forged inside adversity. Schopenhauer said that suffering is the foundation of consciousness, not because suffering is noble, but because suffering forces you to confront reality without illusions. Pain strips away the false layers you hide behind, the excuses, the fantasies, the entitlement that modern life encourages. When discomfort hits, you discover whether you are guided by principles or by impulses. Without pain, you have no reason to choose discipline over indulgence, truth over comfort, growth over stagnation. Pain creates the contrast that reveals your character. Psychologists know this as stress adaptation. The mind becomes tougher through controlled exposure to difficulty. This is not motivational talk. This is biology. When you endure what challenges you, neural pathways reorganize toward resilience. Your tolerance increases. Your emotional response stabilizes. Your ability to think clearly under pressure strengthens. But this adaptation happens only through friction. A muscle that is never challenged cannot grow. A mind that is never stressed cannot become stable. People fantasize about mental toughness as if it appears spontaneously, but toughness is payment. You earn it by stepping into situations that demand more than you currently possess. You earn it by doing the uncomfortable thing when every part of you wants to run. You earn it by rejecting the easy path in favor of the path that sharpens you. Nietzsche wrote that the person who has never confronted hardship cannot know their own strength. A life protected from adversity is a life protected from evolution. Look at your own patterns. Every time you endured something painful and refused to collapse, you came out stronger. Every heartbreak gave you more clarity about what you will and will not tolerate. Every failure taught you how to rebuild. Every humiliation forced you to stop pretending. Every difficult task you completed rewired your identity. Pain has been sculpting you quietly, consistently, even when you swore it was destroying you. Strength is simply pain that has matured, but you sabotage this process when you label pain as unfair, when you interpret discomfort as a sign to retreat instead of a signal to rise. Kierkegaard said that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, the sensation you feel when life invites you to grow. Pain operates the same way. It reveals the next version of yourself, but demands that you walk through fire to claim it. Avoid the fire, and you avoid the transformation. Epictetus endured beatings, captivity, and powerlessness, yet his mind remained sovereign because he refused to let suffering define him. The suffering refined him instead. That is the crucial distinction. Pain becomes destructive only when you resist it. When you embrace it, it becomes structural, the foundational pressure that strengthens the walls of your mind. You cannot be unbreakable if you have never been bent. You cannot be resilient if you have never been tested. Your weakness does not come from the presence of pain. It comes from the absence of purpose inside pain. Once you give discomfort direction, everything changes. A hard workout becomes discipline. A difficult conversation becomes courage. A setback becomes strategy. Pain becomes architecture. And when pain becomes architecture, strength becomes inevitable. The question is no longer whether pain will visit your life. It will. The real question is whether you will allow it to sculpt you, or whether you will remain soft clay pretending to be stone. Pain strips away illusion and forces truth. Pain has one function you cannot replicate with comfort. It forces you to confront the truth, not the version of truth you prefer, not the filtered version you use to protect your ego, the real one. Pain is the solvent that dissolves every illusion you've built about who you are, what you're capable of, and how disciplined you truly remain when life stops cooperating with your fantasies. Jung said that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Pain removes that option. When life is easy, you can hide in stories. You can pretend you're disciplined because you planned to wake up early. You can pretend you're strong because nothing is currently challenging you. You can pretend you're focused because your distractions feel pleasant. But the moment discomfort enters, all these illusions collapse. Pain is the X-ray of your character. It shows exactly where you are soft, undisciplined, untrained, and unprepared. That exposure hurts your pride, which is why most people run from it. But running from truth only prolongs the weakness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If something is difficult, do it and become stronger." The Stoics embraced hardship because it revealed the gap between who they were and who they needed to be. Pain is the mirror that never lies. You may lie to yourself about your intentions, your effort, your values, but pain exposes reality with ruthless accuracy. When something hurts, you learn what you truly believe, what you truly fear, and what you truly value. There is no self-deception inside discomfort. Modern psychology supports this. Pain triggers cognitive dissonance, the clash between your self-image and your behavior. When you feel discomfort yet still move forward, your identity shifts upward. When you avoid discomfort, your identity collapses downward. Pain is the calibration mechanism of the mind. It shows whether your actions align with your principles or whether your principles are just decorative words you throw around to feel better about yourself. Nietzsche said that the individual who cannot endure truth will seek comfort in illusions. He didn't mean illusions were pleasant. He meant illusions were fatal. They disconnect you from consequences until consequences become catastrophic. Pain prevents this. It interrupts the drift into delusion. Every painful experience interrupts your narrative and forces you to ask, who am I without excuses? Who am I when nothing goes my way? Who am I when I cannot hide? Suffering reveals your actual level of strength, not your imagined level. That revelation is uncomfortable, but it is priceless. Without it, you would continue living as a reduced version of yourself. Pain demands honesty, emotional honesty, behavioral honesty, moral honesty. It demands that you stop negotiating with your own weakness. It demands clarity, not the clarity you read in books, but the clarity burned into you through experience. Epictetus endured years of physical suffering, yet he taught that the worst pain is not external. The worst pain is the internal collision between who you are and who you know you should be. This is why people fear stillness and silence. When there is no noise to distract you, you're forced to meet yourself. Pain accelerates that meeting. It brings your untrained mind to the surface. That confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is the birthplace of strength. You cannot grow while clinging to illusions. You cannot evolve while avoiding truths. Pain cuts away the parts of you that pretend. It strips your identity down to something real, something solid, something capable of withstanding life. That's why pain is necessary. It reveals what must end inside you so something stronger can begin. And you know this instinctively. The moments in your life that changed you most were never comfortable. They were the moments that hurt. They were the moments that forced honesty. They were the moments that burned away illusion. Pain does not destroy you. It destroys the false version of you. And that is the only destruction that leads to freedom. Pain trains the mind to act under pressure. Pain is not just a teacher of truth, it is the trainer of action. Anyone can think clearly when nothing is at stake. Anyone can plan their life when there is no resistance. Anyone can speak about discipline when they are not required to act. But the moment pressure arrives, most people collapse into instinct, emotion, and panic. This collapse reveals the real problem. You never learned how to think under strain. You never learned how to act when your comfort is gone. Pain fixes this. Schopenhauer wrote that life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. One sharpens you, the other dulls you. Pain activates the machinery of attention. It forces awareness. It demands decisions. When something hurts, your mind stops drifting. You become present. You become alert. The fog of distraction dissolves instantly. That clarity is not pleasant, but it is powerful. It is the state in which the strongest choices are made. Modern psychology calls this stress-induced focus. The Stoics simply called it reality. Marcus Aurelius trained himself daily to anticipate difficulty, not to fear it, but to refuse surprise. Why? Because the unprepared mind panics and the panicked mind makes weak decisions. Pain is the antidote to this weakness. When you expose yourself to controlled discomfort, you teach your nervous system to stop overheating when pressure arrives. You learn to stay stable while your emotions flare. You learn to think while your impulses scream. This is mental toughness at its core, the ability to choose your response even when everything inside you wants to retreat. Pain forces you out of the theoretical and into the practical. Epictetus said that philosophy means nothing unless it is applied under pressure. Anyone can recite principles when life is smooth. Only the trained mind can hold on to them when life becomes hostile. When pain hits, you don't rise to your goals. You fall to your training. If your training is soft, you crumble. If your training is forged in discomfort, you become the kind of person others rely on when everything starts falling apart. Think about every moment you respect in yourself. None of them came from ease. They came from action taken under stress. The conversation you feared but initiated anyway, the responsibility you accepted when you could have escaped, the decision you made when uncertainty terrified you. Those moments shaped you because pain forced you to choose. Discomfort pushed you into movement. Strain sharpened your instincts. Action under pressure is the foundation of self-trust, and pain is the only environment that builds it. Jung taught that the mind grows by integrating what frightens it. Pain is frightening because it demands action instead of retreat. But the more you act inside discomfort, the more your brain learns that pressure is survivable. Fear loses its authority. Anxiety loses its weight. You begin to operate from strength rather than avoidance. This shift is psychological evolution. It is not pleasant, but it is necessary. The problem is not that you lack ability, it is that you lack exposure to the conditions that awaken ability. Pain is the bridge between theory and embodiment. You cannot embody courage without risking fear. You cannot embody discipline without enduring resistance. You cannot embody strength without meeting the situations that require it. Pain places you inside these situations, whether you choose them or not. This is why the modern mind struggles. It is protected from the very tensions that create resilience. You escape discomfort instantly through distraction, entertainment, consumption, and emotional retreat. Every escape weakens your capacity to act in moments that matter. Pain reverses this weakness by forcing your mind to stabilize under strain. It teaches you to breathe inside discomfort instead of suffocating under it. When you train your mind to act under pressure, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the author of your response. Pain gives you this training. Pain teaches the mind to move when it wants to freeze. Pain builds the discipline that comfort destroys. And the more you practice this, the more unshakable you become. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop breaking when it becomes hard. Pain builds self-mastery through resistance. Pain is the resistance your mind has been avoiding, yet it is the only resistance capable of forging self-mastery. You say you want control. You say you want discipline. You say you want to stop being ruled by impulses, fear, and emotional chaos. But self-mastery doesn't come from meditation apps or motivational quotes. It comes from friction, from pressure, from the internal war between who you are and who you're trying to become. Pain is the battlefield where this war is fought. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind adapts to its own thoughts. If your thoughts revolve around comfort, you become a slave to ease. If your thoughts revolve around strength, you become a student of adversity. Pain shifts your internal compass. It forces you to stop negotiating with your weaker self and start confronting what actually needs to change. Every moment of discomfort is a confrontation with your limits, and every confrontation is a chance to raise them. People talk about self-control, yet they crumble the moment a craving appears. People talk about discipline, yet they fold the moment routine becomes inconvenient. People talk about growth, yet they abandon any process that challenges their ego. Pain exposes this hypocrisy. It reveals that self-mastery is not a belief, it is a behavior. And behaviors are shaped through repeated exposure to conditions that demand them. Without pain, you never reach those conditions. Psychology calls this distress tolerance. Stoicism called it inner fortitude. Jung called it shadow integration. The language differs, but the mechanism is the same. You must learn to remain centered while the mind screams for escape. Pain becomes the training ground. When you endure discomfort without collapsing into impulse, you strengthen the part of your psyche capable of regulating emotion, impulse, and fear. That part of you is small now. But it grows with every deliberate encounter with pain. Self-mastery develops in stages. First, resistance hits you. Then your mind reacts with panic, avoidance, or anger. These reactions reveal your untrained patterns. Pain forces you to watch them surface. And this observation alone is powerful. You can't change what you refuse to see. Once the patterns surface, you face the decision. Submit to them or override them. Pain gives you that choice repeatedly, relentlessly. And each time you override the impulse to retreat, your identity shifts toward mastery. Frankl understood this deeply. When stripped of everything, the only freedom left is the freedom to choose your response. Pain reveals whether you possess that freedom or only talk about it. It shows whether you can remain intentional when comfort disappears. This is what separates the disciplined from the inconsistent, the resilient from the fragile, the self-mastered from the self-betraying. Nietzsche said that the person who cannot command themselves will always seek someone else to blame. Pain eliminates blame. It removes distraction. It corners you into taking responsibility for how you think, act, and endure. This is the purification of the will. Without pain, your will remains theoretical. Inside pain, it becomes real. Epictetus taught that freedom begins the moment you stop being controlled by externals. But externals don't control you directly, your reactions do. Pain exposes these reactions so you can finally train them. The more you experience controlled suffering, voluntary difficulty, chosen discipline, intentional friction, the more fluent you become in directing your own mind. That fluency is self-mastery. You cannot build this through ease. Ease teaches compliance. Pain teaches command. Ease reinforces old habits. Pain forces new ones. Ease protects your weaknesses. Pain strengthens them. Your relationship with pain determines your relationship with yourself. If you avoid it, your mind owns you. If you face it, you begin to own your mind. Self-mastery isn't mystical. It's mechanical. It is built through the deliberate practice of staying in discomfort long enough for your identity to shift. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the trainer. And the more intentionally you work with it, the more control you gain over yourself, not in theory, but in action. Pain reveals who you could become. Pain doesn't just reveal who you are, it reveals who you could be. Inside every moment of discomfort exists a version of you that you haven't met yet. The version capable of facing life without collapsing, without bargaining, without shrinking at the first sign of difficulty. Most people never meet this version because they run from the exact experiences that would introduce them. They escape the pain that would have forced them to evolve. They cling to the identity they already know, even when it suffocates them. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote that the mind is dyed by its thoughts, but what dyes a mind more than the truths discovered under pressure? Comfort paints the mind in soft colors that wash away at the first storm. Pain etches reality into you. It marks you permanently. It expands the borders of who you are. When you endure hardship, you don't come out as the same person who entered. Something inside you grows, stabilizes, deepens. The transformation is not poetic. It is neurological, psychological, and existential. Nietzsche argued that every individual carries within them a higher self, but accessing it requires confronting the forces that keep you small: fear, laziness, ego, attachment to comfort. Pain burns these barriers. It strips away the layers of weakness that shield you from your own potential. This is why you sometimes feel stronger after suffering, even if the experience was brutal. Pain exposes the strength that was hidden underneath your excuses. Modern psychology calls this post-traumatic growth, but the Stoics understood it long before science named it. Pain reorganizes your values. It forces you to decide what matters. It removes distractions. It clarifies your priorities. It shows you the cost of staying the same. You don't become stronger simply because life hurts you. You become stronger when you choose to respond to that hurt with courage instead of collapse. Frankl taught that meaning is the difference between a person who endures suffering and a person who is crushed by it. Meaning is not found in comfort. Meaning is discovered in confrontation. When you face something painful and survive, you no longer fear it the same way. You expand, you deepen, you learn that you can withstand what once terrified you. This realization is the doorway to your potential, not because the challenge disappears, but because you become someone who can carry it. Pain forces evolution in another way. It destroys the illusions of who you should be and replaces them with the truth of who you could be. The should-be version is weak, polite, performative, shaped by expectations, not conviction. The could-be version is shaped by adversity, sharpened by honesty, anchored in discipline. Pain reveals this version by showing you the parts of yourself that are still unfinished. Every struggle highlights a capacity waiting to be developed. Every discomfort exposes a skill waiting to be trained. Epictetus said that suffering becomes unbearable only when you refuse to grow from it. When you accept it as the raw material of transformation, it stops being punishment and becomes process. The fire you fear is the fire that forges you. The pressure you resist is the pressure that forms you. The discomfort you avoid is the discomfort that reveals the next layer of your potential. Look back at your own life. Think of the periods where you grew the most. They were never the easy months. They were the times when everything felt heavy, confusing, or painful. Yet somehow you emerged sharper, clearer, stronger. That wasn't luck. That was evolution. Pain was chiseling away the parts of you that were too soft to survive the next chapter. It was preparing you for responsibilities you didn't yet understand. You stand at the edge of that same evolution right now. You can retreat into comfort, into the familiar version of yourself that avoids pressure. Or you can step toward the version of you that pain is calling forth. That version isn't theoretical. It's waiting behind the resistance you've been avoiding. You do not become unbreakable through wishes. You become unbreakable by walking through the fire that reveals your highest form. Pain is the price of becoming unbreakable. You want to be unbreakable, yet you hope to get there without being broken. This contradiction is the trap that keeps most people weak. Strength is not gained through protection. Strength is gained through exposure. Every Stoic understood this. Every philosopher of character understood this. Every survivor of their own life understood this. Pain is not an obstacle to becoming unbreakable. Pain is the entrance exam. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action. He wasn't being poetic. He was describing the mechanics of resilience. When something hurts, you are handed a decision: collapse or endure. Hide or confront, retreat or rise. Every time you choose endurance, you train your mind to stop shattering at the first sign of pressure. You teach yourself that pain is not fatal. You learn that you can take the blow and remain standing. This is the birth of inner strength. The modern world has convinced you that suffering is something to escape. That comfort is the goal. That convenience is success. But this worldview creates fragile people with fragile identities. Comfort makes you dependent. Pain makes you independent. Comfort makes you entitled. Pain makes you aware. Comfort makes you soft. Pain makes you sharp. Nietzsche warned that those who worship comfort lose the ability to carry their own lives. They become passengers, not authors. Pain forces responsibility into your hands. Epictetus endured injustice and brutality, yet he taught his students that the worst suffering a person can experience is refusing to master themselves. Because when you refuse that mastery, you remain controlled by impulse, fear, emotional storms, and external chaos. Pain is the arena where mastery is forged. It strips away the illusions that comfort protects, and it trains you to remain calm, disciplined, and deliberate under strain. Without that training, your mind breaks the moment life demands something from you. Frankl demonstrated the truth most people spend their entire lives running from. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering is what happens when you resist the truth that pain is part of existence, when you fight reality instead of working with it, when you refuse to take the raw material of hardship and shape it into meaning. Pain becomes destructive only when you deny its role in your evolution. When you accept it, it becomes fuel, self-mastery, resilience, clarity, discipline, emotional control. None of these traits grow inside comfort. They grow inside friction. They grow inside pressure. They grow inside the fires of discomfort that you keep trying to avoid. The path to becoming unbreakable is not mysterious. It is brutally simple. You must walk straight into the thing that scares you most and choose strength instead of escape. You must step into the pressure that tries to collapse you and decide to remain upright. You must allow pain to forge you instead of destroy you. The person you admire, the one with self-discipline, mental toughness, and unshakable inner power, didn't get there by avoiding pain. They got there by using it. They let hardship sharpen them. They let discomfort sculpt them. They let adversity train them. This is the iron mind way, to stop begging for ease, to stop worshipping comfort, to stop expecting transformation without friction, to meet life exactly as it is and use every challenge as a weapon for your own development. You say you want to be unbreakable, then you must stop running from the training that builds unbreakable people. Pain is the price, not the punishment, not the obstacle, the price. And the moment you accept that price, the moment you stop negotiating with discomfort and start embracing it, you begin crossing the threshold into a different kind of life. A life where you are no longer overwhelmed by difficulty, but strengthened by it. You become the kind of person who is not defined by circumstances, but by response. Not shaped by emotion, but by principle. Not weakened by hardship, but forged by it. This is what it means to walk the Stoic iron mind path. Pain is the only way forward, because it is the only force that has the authority to turn you into someone who cannot be broken. The question now is the one you can no longer escape. Now that you understand the cost, will you pay it?